Thank you, members. We'll move on to matters of public interest. I call the member for Nanango.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, no words can describe the depth of the evil that descended on Christchurch. Mosques should be places of safety and sanctuary, but at Friday prayers on March 15, they became places of slaughter. My heart breaks for those who were murdered, for those who survived and those who lost loved ones. Their grief cannot be imagined. I was horrified by the cold-blooded butchery of victims chosen simply because of their faith, and I was sickened that the terrorist responsible was Australian. He came from this country, and we must reflect on that. It is disturbing to realise such evil exists within our society. We cannot ignore it, and we must confront all of those who are consumed by racial and religious hatred. Australia must never be a haven for hate. Mr Speaker, on behalf of the LNP Queensland, I would like to congratulate Gladys Berejiklian on her victory in the New South Wales state election.
Crushing defeat of the Labor Party.
New South Wales has a strong economy. It has the lowest unemployment in the nation, and New South Wales is building vital infrastructure. Mr Speaker, it is an example of what a dynamic centre-right government can achieve. What a contrast we have here in the Palaszczuk government in Queensland. Under the Palaszczuk Labor government, we have low growth, we have high unemployment, and we have an infrastructure crisis. Now, on top of that, Mr Speaker, we have ministers protesting against each other.
Order, members. Order, members. Thank you, Member Finnan.
Mr Speaker, we have ministers protesting against each other. But, Mr Speaker, we also have a health system that is in crisis. Mr Speaker, my 3 daughters were born in a regional hospital. I personally know what it is like to live 3 hours away from your nearest maternity centre. Mr Speaker, I know how frightening it is to be that distance away from a maternity hospital. So I sympathise with the young regional mums of today living in Queensland and in the bush, when Labor's own maternity task force has confirmed that the number of babies born before they reach rural hospitals has doubled, Mr Speaker, since 2001. It is no coincidence that the Labor governments, successive Labor governments, have closed 26 regional maternity services over their time. 26 rural. Babies are now 65% more likely to die in country areas than if they are in Brisbane. That is a shameful statistic. This callous Labor government don't care about bush mums. They certainly don't care about their babies. Mr Speaker, Deputy Speaker, babies are dying because of the policy settings of this Palaszczuk government and Labor's health cuts. Labor have made this crisis, and their health minister has done nothing to fix it. Now, where is the health minister on this? Well, he is more interested in renaming hospitals and playing the blame game than actually fixing his own health crisis in Queensland. I believe that every woman, no matter where she chooses to live, has the right to proper health care in this state and has the right to deliver her baby in her community where she chooses to live. Mr Deputy Speaker, the last LNP government reopened maternity centres, and the next LNP government will reopen maternity centres. Mr Deputy Speaker, it's the opposition's duty to highlight problems which Queenslanders face, but it is also the opposition's role to offer solutions, and that is exactly what we have been doing. And there are a few bigger problems than the crime wave that has been unleashed under this Labor government. The Labor government's record is appalling. Robbery is up 61% since 2015, armed robbery up 46%, serious assault 35%, car theft is up 45%. And on car theft, now we know the member for Stratton knows all about car theft. Someone stole his ute with his face on it while it was sitting outside of his own electorate office, Mr. Speaker. The criminals are getting that desperate. Mr. Speaker, crime is out of control.
Order.
But while Labor has slashed $44 million from its police budget, we have a plan. The LNP has a plan to protect our communities. We will give the police the resources and the laws that they need to do their jobs. In the last few weeks, the LNP have announced policies that will cut crime and protect Queenslanders. Now, nowhere has seen a bigger surge in crime than Townsville. The city has seen robberies increase by 113%.
Shameful.
Labor promised the city more police at the last election, but all Townsville has got is more criminals. Now, the police aren't getting any help from the Palaszczuk government. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the last LNP government bought police helicopters to Queensland, and the next LNP government will provide one for Townsville. Whole air choppers have made it easier to track and arrest offenders. What's good for the South East should be good for North Queensland. There will be no hiding for criminals in Townsville under the LNP. But, Mr. Speaker, the LNP also has plans to protect Queensland kids, and a future LNP government will introduce a public child sex offender register that will let parents know if there is a sexual predator in their suburb. Every parent has the right to know if someone is a threat to their child. Now, protecting children and protecting kids is more important than protecting the identity of pedophiles. Now, if the offenders aren't happy about being identified, well, I've got some advice for them. Don't rape kids. Don't sexually abuse kids. Don't whine about your rights when you've destroyed innocent lives. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will not make any apology for being tough on child sex offenders. These people who have destroyed innocent young lives. Now, we know the Palaszczuk Labor government is being far too soft, on these criminals. Why does the Palaszczuk government consistently look after the criminals rather than the victims? Well, Mr. Speaker, we know that it is this Labor government that even allows some of these vile sexual offenders to apply for blue cards. Well, the LNP will close that loop, and that would allow would-be rapists and even child killers to apply for those blue cards. And we'll also protect Queenslanders from violence on our roads. Now, we know road rage is a growing menace. We've all seen footage on the TV news of drivers losing control and lashing out at other road users. We've seen drivers waving meat cleavers and even bashing old men at traffic lights. Unacceptable behaviour, Mr. Speaker, and this violence has to stop. The LNP plans to introduce 2 new offences to crack down on road rage. Every driver who loses control loses their licence, and the worst offenders can be jailed for up to 5 years, because we know that drivers and people on our roads deserve to get home safe. Mr. Speaker, the LNP wants every Queensland community to be safe. We need to give our police the tools to fight crime. We will stop Labor's rising tide of crime in its tracks, and we will make Queensland safe again. And, Mr. Speaker, with the small amount of time that I have left, I'd like to acknowledge the GM State School who are here in this chamber. What a great local regional school. A lot of these children have been born in regional hospitals, and if it wasn't for their great parents who have chosen to live in the bush and live in the region, well, then we wouldn't have these amazing schools like GM State School. So it is wonderful to see you here, and also, and absolutely, and with the last 10 seconds that I have remaining on the clock, because a future LNP government will air condition every classroom in GM State School.
Yeah, well done, guys.
Mr Deputy
Order. 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 Order.